he's talking about this gallery that is opening, and he explains that it's going to be called Outsiders or Others, and he starts talking a little bit about what do I know about outsider art or different movements in art. And I really didn't know that much about outsider art, which I've learned a lot about it since. But what he was trying to do is start a gallery that focused on maybe people that have non-traditional art training, or maybe paint or work or create art maybe non-traditional ways. Outsider art traditionally has been, I guess, best known for art by maybe mentally ill artists, artists that have never had any formal training in art and will make something anyway. A lot of folk artists and that type of thing. And he was trying to expand the idea of what outsider art was into people that, well, even include people like me that maybe visually and aesthetically didn't fit what normally people would associate with fine art as much. So I got to know Yuri pretty well. I wound up volunteering at his gallery for several years and met a lot of people in the Minneapolis arts community, and found out kind of here's what you need to do if you want to have a career as an artist. Here's people that I've met a lot of people that were successful and were making a living off their art, and found out there's a lot of different ways to do that. So I was really lucky to meet a guy like Yuri, who later on I find out that he's one of the more prominent curators in Minneapolis, and he's very well known. So that was a lucky break for me, I guess. So my process today and how I work now. The first step for me is I have a concept or an idea in mind. And a lot of the work here is kind of in response to this being an election year, and the different ideas around debate and speeches and leadership. So when I put a work together, I try to just grasp onto that one idea, and how can I represent that, and looking back and keep it in mind, like the freedom and the experimenting of my childhood, the playfulness, asking myself, what else can I do? And then also I keep in mind the education, the art history, what other artists have done, what they have said. And usually my ideas and concepts really do come from everyday life. Like, well, I have one over here. It's about a debate. And you approach it, what does a debate feel like? What's important in a debate? And it's simple. There's two ideas, and they're coming together, and the arms stretching out and crossing shows that, you know, there's definitely there's two different opinions going on there. And try to capture that as simply and directly as possible. Not really paint it, not as much in the details, but in the emotion and the feeling of the idea. Another example of how I get these ideas is from everyday life is I have a Superman t-shirt. I'm sure you guys have seen them around. And I was walking into Target with my wife with my Superman t-shirt on. And we walked by this little 5-year-old boy or so outside the Target, and he just got these big eyes, and he started looking at me, and he points right at me. He said, "That man is Superman." But look on his face, he thought that I was really Superman. And that's the type of little event throughout life that I kind of just keep my eyes open for. And that turns into a painting. A few days later, I'm in the studio, and I'm painting all these little boys with these long arms stretched out, pointing at this caped man, a Superman. And also reading, pull a lot of ideas from there and from unsuspecting areas. I was reading about the Buddhist monks. There's a lot of memoirs and stories about the Buddhist monks and what they're going through. And I was reading all of those, all of what this particular monk was going through. I found the most fascinating part was that the walks they take from between monastery to monastery, and for simple reasons. If they wanted to go see somebody or borrow a book, they would walk for a week to go to the next monastery. I said, well, that's just fascinating. And also, it kind of turned into a good metaphor for life. The idea of a journey of a walk is a metaphor for life, but I had a vision of all these little monks walking along and how that would look. And I just loved the whole idea of it. And so I started this whole series of paintings with these little simple square people walking in this row, or these triangle people, as they turned out to be, walking in this row. And I wanted to show the different phases of the journey of this walk. So I guess you can kind of see it in some of these where it's just the subtleties of life, where maybe sometimes you're a little stronger, sometimes you're a little weaker, your head's tilted a little bit to the side. Just showing that little different emotions as you go through life, like maybe you go through a walk. And so this little part of this little book led me to a lot of what I paint today. So I guess a little bit about the details of my work. I definitely also, when I was thinking about the Journey series of work that I've done, I also thought about kind of a history, that a painting kind of, does it really have a beginning or ending for me? It never really seemed like it did. So I didn't always want my paintings to look like they were always finished or starting. It was kind of like they were part of the journey. So I definitely want to make sure that some of the history shows through in my work so that you can see some of the background, you can see things coming through. That it's not just one layer of paint, particularly. So that's a little bit about why I paint like I do and what I'm doing now. So a little bit on the, I guess, business side of art. As Bill mentioned, I have a studio. It's in Northeast Minneapolis, and it's been a great experience for me working to the point where I have that. There's a building called the Northrop King Building in Northeast Minneapolis, and there's about 100 artist studios in that building. And there's usually more than one artist in each of the studios. And at first I talked to the artist letting me rent out like a 10 by 10 square foot corner of her studio, and was there for about a year. They have a number of events through the year, like they are open for the first Thursday of every month for an open studio crawl. They're open, there's a big art event in the spring called Art-A-Whirl, where thousands of people come through the studios. And then there's also a large event in the fall called Art Attack, where again, it's literally thousands of people come through the studio. One year we had, I think, 10,000 people come through our building. So it's really a great location to be to get some exposure. So I was in that corner, my little corner spot, for about a year. And somebody down the hall had an opening in their studio, so I got a bigger corner for another year or so, until eventually I took over my own studio in the past few years here.